धन्यवाद आपका रैनिक हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. With our viewers, we are shifting our focus now. A 21-year-old man has been detained by the Indian Army personnel in an elaborate sting operation for allegedly posing as a high-ranking military official and wearing a military uniform in Uttar Pradesh's Shahjahanpur. A trap was laid by the army personnel to nab the fake brigadier who would allegedly travel around Shahjahanpur and nearby districts posing as a senior army official. With that, let's in fact take a look at how the accused was in fact nabbed. Alright, let's take a look at how the entire situation unfolded, how the sting operation was carried out over here to nab this fake army brigadier. So let's look at the sting operation. What was the entire case? Basically, Aryan Verma has been detained in Shahjahanpur for allegedly impersonating a senior Indian Army officer. He is accused of posing as a brigadier and projecting a false military identity in public. So he was going around in the public posing as a senior military official, and now he has in fact been detained by the Indian Army officials and personnel as well. So he was posing as a brigadier. That is what is coming to the fore. He was in fact also wearing the military uniform, and he was going around Shahjahanpur and other districts, nearby districts, to make sure and he was in fact falsely portraying an identity in public. Now, he is alleged to have misused the army uniform, the badges, the rank insignia, and to strengthen his fake identity. The officials say that he presented himself as a high-ranking officer to gain credibility and influence. So they are saying that he did this to gain credibility, to gain influence in the region. He has been charged with misusing the uniform of the forces, the badges, the rank, the insignia, everything that has been misused by this particular person in order to fake his identity. Now, the army received, how did this suspicion actually grow? How did they come to know that there is this person who's impersonating a senior military official? Now, the army received multiple inputs about a man frequently moving in military uniform in Shahjahanpur and nearby areas. His repeated presence in different locations while dressed as an officer raised suspicion among authorities. So the suspicion started when he started moving around Shahjahanpur and other areas in uniform. Then the official said that the accused has been under surveillance since April, and after consistent intelligence inputs, his activities were closely tracked over time to verify the authenticity of the claims. So after April, they were in fact tracking him. There were various intelligence inputs that also came into the picture, and that's when the entire racket came to the fore. Now, let's look at the pattern of impersonation. Verma allegedly travelled in an SUV while dressed in a brigadier's uniform across different districts, and then he was seen presenting himself as a senior army officer during public interaction. So he went ahead in public, he was wearing the brigadier's uniform, and in fact he was also traveling in an SUV during all these visits. So this is how he was in fact carrying out his activities. He reportedly used his identity to influence people and build an image of authority. His repeated appearances in uniform suggested a sustained pattern of impersonation. After confirming the inputs, this is how the trap was then put. After confirming the inputs, the army personnel planned a sting operation to catch him red-handed. They designed a controlled setup to verify his claims and expose the impersonation. So they started out with a sting operation. They planned an entirely controlled environment, and that's how they wanted to actually trap him red-handed. Then the officials posed as civilians and organized a fake motivational program for defense aspirants. That's what they did, and then the fake program was organized at the Shaheed Museum in Shahjahanpur cantonment area. It was presented as an interaction session for young candidates preparing for recruitment, and he was in fact called for that to provide the motivational speeches to these young aspirants, and officials were in fact posing as people who were attending the program. Then Aryan Verma arrived at the venue in full brigadier uniform with the insignia and the stars, and then he was immediately detained by the army personnel upon arrival, ending the operation. So a very cinematic trap that was in fact set over here. They in fact then immediately detained him when he arrived at the venue. So this was the whole sting operation that actually occurred over there in Shahjahanpur. Clearly, something that has the army was tracking, and then they finally did this sting operation. Let me in fact rope in Major General K.K. Sinha, a defense expert who's joining us on the broadcast for more on this. Sir, this is a very unique incident that is coming out from Shahjahanpur. We are getting to know of this pattern of impersonation that was carried out by this young individual. He was wearing the ranks, the insignia, the badges of a brigadier, and going around Shahjahanpur and other districts. That's how a suspicion grew, and after that the army in fact carried out this whole sting operation. A controlled environment was set up where he was then invited and arrested, sir.
Jain, and good afternoon. A unique case of impersonation by a young man. First thing, a brigadier can't be a 21 years old man. At 21 years, you get commissioned as a lieutenant, or 21 if you are earlier from National Defense Academy, then you can become a lieutenant. But brigadier becoming in 21 years, and this is for your viewers. It is a height of imagination of anyone who is trying to do with design, and motive is not known. Aryan Verma, his family, I think it must be known to his family also. He may be a psycho. He may be a guy who has got mentally, because his background says that he is trying for NEET examination. Number of times he failed. So this is not the way. He seems to be well off, because he was moving in SUV with two bouncers and posing them as that they are from the commandos from NSC, and he has been given. The people around it, who from whichever the area he comes from, whether he comes from Shahjahanpur or UP, I don't know. People have to understand, and this can't be posed. And I think it will, in my judgment, it will come out that this man is mentally disturbed or things like that. But whoever was providing, I don't think he has got money to have two bouncer, one SUV, SUV that also of Harrier class, which is, I think the family must have been providing. He can't have this of money. I believe he was sitting in Delhi. So whatever his operations are, whatever his motive are, I feel that has to be, and it should not go unnoticed. And in persuasion of army, and that also a high-ranking brigadier. A brigadier generally of the age of late 40s, early 50s. This is what rank. You have got tremendous experience. After that, you become brigadier. And when you have got about 2 to 3 decades of military experience, you rise from captain, major, lieutenant colonel, and then the brigadier. So I feel pity about this man, pity about his family who has allowed those things to happen, pity around from where he has come, why they are not reported, and why didn't they, to the army authorities. The army authorities noticed in the month of April and then trapped him by inviting him to address to the new aspirant. It is a case, but this case should not go unnoticed. Especially the viewers should understand. See, the armed forces of India just can't be faced like this. And the uniform, the insignia, the badges of rank, I believe is carrying a can. We carry a stick, which we call cane, which gives you authority. That also he was carrying. So he must have observed. He must have seen in a lot of videos, and then because I don't think his background is also of arms.
All right. Thank you so much, General Sinha, for that valuable perspective on this issue.